China is a nation with centuries of history, a rich culture and a vast heritage, a land of legendary and powerful dynasties, beautiful architectural wonders, breathtaking landscapes, and great people. Today, China is rapidly changing socially and economically. In the midst of this transition, her people are facing a spiritual void and are confronted with the choice between materialism and religion. Though the Chinese Communist Party still officially upholds the ideology that there is no God, its impact on Chinese society is far less than materialism. In 1966, during the Cultural Revolution, the Communist Party leader Mao Zedong called on the nation's youth to purge the impure elements of Chinese society and revive the revolutionary spirit. This event drastically increased persecution for Christians in China, and many believers suffered imprisonment, torture, and death. Such events fueled the Chinese house churches movement, also known as the Underground Church, which developed after 1949 as a result of the communist government demanding the registration of all religious organizations. Today, China is the largest populated country in the world, with an estimated 1.3 billion inhabitants, which total 19% of the global population. China today has a new, fast-growing middle class, which flourishes faster than expected and is seeking a better standard of living. China's fast economic growth has placed the country as a superpower and the second largest economy in the world. Within the rise of prosperity, cash flow, and buying frenzy, many Chinese people fail to see that there is a veil of dazzling lights and the promise of wealth, hiding the fact that China continues to be a communist regime and a socialist state. Materialism has been instilled into today's Chinese modern society, where teenagers and young adults focus on acquiring possessions, the latest electronics, clothing, cars, and other luxuries, trying to fill the void in their lives with things that have no eternal or spiritual value. China is still rapidly changing, this time in a social and economic revolution known as the Chinese economic boom, which has been 30 years in the making and has also impacted the lives of Christian believers in many ways.
Every day of the week, in at least 60 countries, people are persecuted for their belief in Jesus Christ. Some of us often wonder who these believers are, who is persecuting them, and why. To answer these questions and more, Open Doors International has been gathering data for more than 50 years. The result today is the World Watch List, the best known, most widely accepted, authoritative source of information about the persecuted church. The World Watch List is compiled through extensive research at a field level. The list represents measurements that include places believers are being smashed through violent means, as well as places the church is being squeezed out of existence through more subtle means. Through a scoring grid, the World Watch List takes into consideration which kinds of Christians are being persecuted, where, as well as the level of intensity in any given countries. These factors are incorporated by viewing persecution in the spheres of private life, family life, community life, national life, and church life. It is not simply a compilation of statistical data. The World Watch List is a global expression of the realities of persecution faced by individuals who have decided to follow Jesus.
China is number 37 on the World Watch list. Many people around the world today assume that in such a modernized country as 21st century China, no one could be persecuted for their faith. But Christians in this nation still experience certain levels of persecution. It is very important to analyze carefully the rapid decline of China's position in the World Watch list. In 2001, China was number 4 on the list, as one of the countries where Christians were suffering the most persecution for their faith. And since then, all the way to 2014, we see a dramatic drop in the ranking to position 37 in 2014. Nevertheless, there is still persecution of Christian believers in China today, but this positive and rapid change has brought new hope for Christian believers in China. While many people realize a growing degree of religious freedom among Han Chinese Christians, who are the largest ethnic group in China, year after year, these tens of millions of Christians still face different challenges and limitations, but have different strengths too. The other situation is the more severe persecution of Christians with a Muslim background and a Tibetan background, especially in the Northwest. Among the 20 to 30 million people in Muslim communities in China, there are only a few thousand Christians. The number of Tibetan background Christians is even less. There are only about 200 of these believers. Because of their faith, they experience pressure from their families and communities, as well as from the government. It is no wonder that everything you say about China is true somewhere in China.
其实在中国的这样的发展的时候，教会有很多的教会，甚至一半以上的教会，50%以上的教会并没有改变，所以他们是比较封闭的。还是以前的思想认为教会和社会是完全不能在一起的。还有就是在这样的情况下不能真正的改变的话，我们不能影响这个社会去都相信上帝这样。因为中国教会在牧养方面其实做的不是太好了，所以如果长时间在牧养上还有解释圣经上管理模式上没有什么任何改变的话，很多年轻人会马上流失掉。所以除了城市教会里面，现在农村已经看到普遍这个现象了。城市教会兴起的时候，其实他们在牧养上还有在解经上有很大的改变，还有管理上。其实如果讲到城市教会去帮助农村教会的话，不如说他们如果能一起配搭的话会更好。因为每一个教会群体会牧养不一样的人群，不能说农村教会现在这样的牧养已经不好了，而是它只是不能够继续传递下去对年轻人的牧养，其实对于农村的很多年纪大的人是很好的。所以如果两个教会能够联合起来的话，效果，中国教会的牧养的效果和各方面会更加的好，中国教会会有更好的发展。
The challenge faced by many leaders and pastors who have spearheaded evangelism is that they are older. And even though there are many young ministers and pastors, they are not thoroughly prepared for the task. Therefore, the urgent need is to train these new young leaders.
In China today, many people face similar problems. This current generation of youth feel increasingly stifled. Looking at the emerging churches, I feel that pastors especially need to help this generation of believers. God can use us to serve this generation of young people and raise up more of them to serve Him. We may be from different eras, and the methods and ways of expressing ourselves may have changed. But the truth doesn't change. And God doesn't change.
Another challenge for the few thousand Christian believers in Islamic regions is to openly share their faith and evangelize, since such activity is illegal and prohibited. Any gatherings in these areas outside the government-approved establishments is strictly forbidden. Many Christians who want to gather for Bible studies, discipleship, or worship have to do such activities secretly in houses and other private venues, in very small groups, and always under the risk of being punished or even arrested.
在西北服饰有一件很重要的事情，就是你用什么身份留在当地。假如你没有一个合适的身份，政府可能会就怀疑你，他们也会被当地的这种宗教领袖有可能会投诉，所以我们需要有一个身份，有一个工作。你的邻居，如果你没有什么也没有做，也没有什么工作，好像没有做什么的话，你的邻居也可能告发你，他可能怀疑你，也可能告发你。所以呢，我也需要有一个合适的身份，有一个工作。做生意是一个很好的平台，我们从前也没做过生意，生意方面很多经验不足，很困难，要持续下去，还有很多需要我们学习的地方。
For many Christians in China, evangelizing to minority ethnic groups becomes a very hard and challenging task due to the vast diversity of cultures and dialects spoken throughout the country.
我们受教会的差遣去那边服侍穆斯林少数民族，这当中跟我们在汉族教会服侍实在有很多不同的地方。穆斯林人的这个宗教观念比较强，而穆斯林这个人去改信主，他会面对这种家庭和这种社会的这种逼迫，尤其是女性，她们没有社会地位，常常被父亲或者是丈夫打。穆斯林人认为呢，穆斯林人打孩子和妇女是好男人、好丈夫。所有的妇女被丈夫打了的话，她们心里可能有一种压力，或者是不敢告诉丈夫。有很多姊妹，一些他们信主的都不敢告诉自己的丈夫，他们都会被丈夫恐吓，把他们休妻。这就是他们来信主的一个主要原因。在中国，穆斯林的信徒是最受逼迫的，西藏的信徒也不容易。首先，藏传佛教的是灵界的营垒，不易攻破。喇嘛又有实权，会阻止基督教的传播。
对于中国很多教会来说，对于宣教方面，我觉得可能是处在准备阶段，更多的是应该准备好，无论是在文化、语言，然后适应能力，然后我们宣教的清楚的意向和上帝给我们带来的能力，这些准备工作远远胜过我们一腔的热血。所以有的时候我们是靠着热血去的，没有清楚的意向，没有准备好，所以我们的成功率是特低。所以现在中国教会大部分需要是在准备更好的怎么去牧养别人。
China has been changing with astonishing speed in the last 3 decades. Although many Christian believers still suffer some level of persecution today, in the past 30 years, the number of Christians has increased from 3 million to between 80 to 90 million believers. Our fellow Christian brothers and sisters in China need our prayers and support while facing the many challenges still to come.
We need to pray for the generation of young people who must eventually rise up to take their place in society. What beliefs and life values would they bring to replace those of the 30-something and 45-something-year-olds that are movers and shakers of the current generation? As my generation of young people reaches this age, we need to be concerned with the stage of our churches, whether in the cities or in the villages. If the church becomes weaker, we may lose our effect on society. Many people might not even know of the God we believe in. But if today's emerging churches rise up and influence those beside us, we can change society.
希望他们能在这种逼迫和这种孤单中坚强的站稳，不要背弃信仰。第二，求主保守他们能承受这种逼迫和这种患难。第三，求神 保守，能够兴起教会和领袖，让他们能够灵命的成长，求主保守，让像我们一样的这种夫妇汉族宣教士继续的服侍，有智慧的来接触他们，让我们得到这种教会和更多的肢体的支持。